uhambe nami zungangishilana dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze zuhambe nami dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze zuhambe nami ilondoloze 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 zungangishilana ilondoloze 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 zungangishilana dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze zuhambe nami dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze zuhambe nami Jerusalema ikayalami ilondoloze uhambe nami zungangishilana uhambe nami zungangishilana dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze zuhambe nami ilondoloze ilondoloze ilondoloze.
Good evening, everyone. We will be starting this meeting in another 5 or 10 minutes maximum. Thank you all for coming and continue to enjoy the music.
Thank you, sir.
Zungangishilana ilondoloze 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 zungangishilana. Going forward, no more retreat. I'm raging war on the enemy, taking back what was stolen from me. Are you ready? Are you ready? You can't go war looking cute. Lord God Almighty. Are you ready, soldier? hands are anointed, and if your feet are anointed, and if you're under the blood, give me a Holy Ghost shout. If your hands are anointed, and if your feet are anointed, and if you're under the blood, Lord God Almighty, give me a Holy Ghost shout. Say, if your hands are anointed, and if your feet are anointed, and if you're under the blood, under the blood, under the blood, oh, I am anointed. Pull up, Lord God Almighty. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? You want back your stuff? You want back your sin thing there? You want back your stuff? Say, if your hands are anointed, if your feet are anointed, and if you're under the blood, give me a Holy Ghost shout. If your hands are anointed, and if your feet are anointed.
Good evening, fellow Kiwanians and guests.
Good evening, President. Good evening, President.
Good evening, President Kevon.
Good evening, PK.
Good evening.
Good evening, President Kevon.
It is now my pleasure to now call the meeting of the Kiwanis Club of Linstead to order. I am going to ask the following Kiwanians to assist in the opening exercise. For the invocation, I'm going to call on Kiwanian Nolet. The national anthem will be played, and the objects of Kiwanis International will be done by Kiwanian Curlew. In that order, please. Kiwanian Nolet, are you here? Right, so I'm not seeing
Yes, I
Kiwanian
am.
Nolet, so, oh, wonderful.
Yes, I am.
Great.
Yes, I am.
Go ahead.
Let us pray. Let us bow our hearts and our heads. Our Father and our God, our Savior, Jesus Christ, we come to you tonight, Lord. And God, we just want to thank you for yet another day. Thank you, Lord, for the life, the breath that we breathe. And it is because of your love, Lord, and golden opportunity that we can call on your name. God, we just want to thank you, oh Lord. And tonight, we come to you, Father, as a family, as a group, a service group, Lord. God, when you were here on earth, you served us well. And you serve with humility. And tonight, Lord, we too are servants of yours. And God, as we come on this platform tonight, Father, we are inviting your presence to be with us throughout this meeting. God, I pray that you guide us, oh God, and give us direction. And God, I trust that whatever is said tonight will be in line with your will. Let your will be done, Father. Lord, we look to you by faith right now for your guidance and for your direction. As we wait on you, we tell you thanks. In Jesus Christ, oh Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Fellow Kiwanians and guests, at this time, I'm going to ask that we stand for the playing of the national anthem of Jamaica.
Fellow Kiwanians and guests, please help me to affirm the objective of Kiwanis Club International. To give primacy to the human and spiritual rather than the material of life. To encourage daily living of the golden rule in all human relationships. To promote the adoption and the application of higher social and professional standards. To develop the precept and example.
More intelligent,
aggressive services. To provide through Kiwanis Club a practical means to form enduring friendship.
to render
Patriotic service and to build a better community.
cooperate in creating and
maintaining that sound public opinion
and high
idealism which make possible the increase of righteousness, justice, patriotism, and goodwill.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'm going to welcome our Secretary Carleen, who will now do the welcome and roll call of clubs.
Good evening, fellow Kiwanians and guests. Welcome to our weekly meeting, where we will be having a special guest tonight who will be speaking on sleep and our health. At this time, I would like to invite the visiting clubs to announce themselves. So we're gonna have our roll call. So I'm gonna invite the clubs to just open their mics and introduce yourself.
Good evening, fellow Kiwanians and guests. This is President Janet from the Kiwanis Club of the Sunshine City. I have 3 persons online at this time, and we're looking forward to a great meeting. Thank you.
Welcome, President Janet.
Thank you.
Good evening. This is President Josephine from the Kiwanis Club of Mandeville. So far, I have 1 Kiwanian, along with myself, Kiwanian Blessed, and we have a guest, Cuddly Shaw, who is visiting with us tonight. I know we are going to have a very enjoyable and very informative meeting coming from the diplomats.
Greetings, fellow Kiwanians and guests. I'm President Stephanie of the Kiwanis Club of Young Professionals St. Catherine. 3 of us are online now, and we're expecting 2 others. Thank you.
Pleasant evening, everyone. This is President Amelia from the Kiwanis Club of North Spanish Town. Online, we have, there are 3 of us online at the moment, but we are also expecting others to join. We thank you for the invitation, and we are looking forward to a great evening.
Thank you, President.
Good evening, fellow Kiwanians and guests. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, Jesse.
Good evening.
Greetings.
How are you doing?
Parish. Want to wish you a very prosperous good afternoon. And this is DP Joseph from the Kiwanis Club of Armadale.
Good evening, fellow Kiwanians and guests. This is President Durbin from the Kiwanis Club of Spanish Town. I think we have 4 persons online at this point. I expect another 3 to be here. But we wish you a very good meeting. We look forward to learning about our sleep and to develop a more intelligent set of Kiwanians because we have participated in this discussion. Thank you.
Welcome, President Durban. Do we have any
Good evening, fellow Kiwanians and guests. I am President Denise from the Kiwanis Club of Yorkton Premier Builders. With me are Secretary Melissa and Director Jason. We look forward to having a good evening. Thank you.
Welcome, President Denise.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
This is President Michelle from the Kiwanis Club of St. Anne's Bay. I have one guest with me, Laurent, and it's a pleasure sharing in your meeting this evening. And I know we'll learn a lot. Thanks for having us.
Good evening, fellow Kiwanians and guests. On behalf of President Richard Reese, who is here with us, I bring you warm greetings from the Kiwanis Club of Kingston. There are 7 of us at this time, and we're looking forward to a very interesting and informative meeting. Thank you.
Good evening, President Kevon and my fellow Kiwanians. It is always a pleasure to interclub with the Kiwanis Club of Linstead. I bring you cool greetings from the Kiwanis Club of Moneague. With me this evening are 4 members, and I am DLGE Donna Coombs. Thank you.
I am DLGE Donna Coombs.
Hi.
Good evening, everyone. Bringing greetings from the Kiwanis Club of Diverse Professionals, Portmore Pines. This is Treasurer Wayne on behalf of President Cheryl and PE Omilo, wishing you a successful meeting.
Good evening, Kiwanians and friends. This is DP Donovan from the Kiwanis Club of Portmore. Currently, there are 2 of us online, and we're hoping to have...
I'm just getting on, Donovan.
Okay. There are now 3 of us online, so we're hoping to have a good meeting with you all this evening.
Good evening, everyone. This is President Marsha from Kiwanis Club of Anota Bay. Online, I should have Kiwanian Boyd. I hope this will be a successful meeting, and I'm happy to join.
Okay. When I started, I did not ask if we have any overseas clubs with us. Do we have any overseas clubs with us? Okay. Is there any other club that has not introduced themselves?
Fellow Kiwanians, good evening. I'm President Gillette from the Kiwanis Club of Spalding Christiana. This evening we have 4 members in the meeting. Looking forward to an exciting meeting. Thank you for the invitation.
Good evening, fellow Kiwanians. This is DP Judith from the Kiwanis Club of South St. Andrew. I think I'm alone here tonight for the time being. Thank you.
You're never alone, DP Judith. Never alone.
Good evening, everyone.
Never alone. Okay.
Good evening, fellow Kiwanians and guests. This is President Audrini from Maypen, and there is one other person, DP Pat on. I hope others will join us in short order. All the best for the evening, and I'm expecting to learn a lot.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
This is Pihi Alicia from Eastern St. Andrew. We are happy to be here with you. We have a delegation. I'm not sure how much is on at the moment, but I hope to have an enjoyable meeting and learn a lot from this meeting. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is DLG Christine from the Kiwanis Club of the First City. I'm not sure if my president is on. I know we have a delegation, but I'm not sure if she brought greetings already or if they're on. If not, I'm happy to be here. I'm expecting others to join, and we're looking forward to having a great time with you. Thanks so much for the invitation.
Good evening, fellow Kiwanians and guests. I am Kiwanian Pamelo from Kiwanis Club of New Kingston. Presently, I'm not seeing anyone else yet, but I know that others will join us shortly. Thank you for having us, and have a good meeting.
Good evening, everyone. This is DP Marianne from the Kiwanis Club of Geisel. It's a pleasure to be a part of the meeting of Kiwanis Club of Linstead. At the moment, I'm alone, but other members from Geisel Club will be joining shortly. Looking forward to a wonderful meeting.
Good afternoon, my fellow Kiwanians and friends. This is President Lillian from the Kiwanis Club of the First City. I know that our DLG Christine has joined before me. Did you make the introduction, DLG?
Yes, I did, Prez, but you can go ahead and still introduce yourself. I wasn't sure if you were on.
Okay, thank you. So yes, so as you can see, we have DLG Christine and our director Juliet is joining as well. So we are a delegation of 3 at the moment.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Do we have any more clubs visiting? Okay.
Good evening again. Good evening again. This is DP Desmond from Kiwanis Club of Kingston. There are actually 8 of us at this time, and there are some SLPs. I think you'll allow them to introduce themselves. Eh?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yes, I was going to that. The SLPs that are visiting with us can kindly introduce yourselves.
Good evening, everyone. Am I being heard?
Yes, good evening.
I am
Yes.
Secretary Diana Denton from the Michael University College CKI Club. Currently, we are 3 in numbers. Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. Do we have any more SLPs? All right. I will move on to special guests. Do we have any guests visiting with us?
Good evening, fellow Kiwanians and guests. Thank you very much, Secretary Caroline. It is my honor this evening to welcome our guest speaker this evening, Dr. Terry Baker. Welcome. Also, I have another special guest of mine, Donna M. Tucker. Welcome, Kiwanian Donna. And just by way of announcement, should we get to capacity, which is 100 people, please bear in mind, and you can send it out to your members who are not able to join us on Zoom, that we are streaming live on YouTube. All they need to do is to search for Kiwanis Club of Linstead. All right, thank you.
Thank you, President Kevin. All right, so we'll now move into good news, bad news.
Just before you move into good news and bad news, just to inform you that the Kiwanis Club of Mandeville now has 6 members online. 3 more has already joined.
Okay, thank you very much.
Excuse me also, good night everyone. Secretary Rochelle from the University of Technology, along with BE Shifani Walters and VP Kimani Henry and co-chair Shante and Onika Edwards.
Welcome to your delegation. All right, so The good news that we have for today is the 46th President of the United States of America has been sworn in. That's a good news for all Jamaicans and many other persons around the world. Very good news. Do we have- Yes.
Also an addendum to that, Secretary
The end of
Pauline.
an era.
What was that? What was the error? What was the error?
4 years of stress.
The VP is part of Jamaican heritage.
Yes, that was my addendum. Thank you, DLG Gersley.
You're welcome.
I did not hear that.
The
I said the Vice President Kamala Harris is part of our Jamaican heritage.
Oh, so that's double good news.
Yes.
All right.
She's
Do we have
also
any more
black
good
and
news?
the first female vice president.
Yes. So it's a day filled with wonderful, not just good, but wonderful news throughout the world. Do we have any more good news that we wish to share?
Good night.
Good night.
My name is Vivian Smith, and I was invited to the meeting by Jacqueline Edwards.
Welcome, Vivian. That name just sounds familiar. Welcome to our meeting, Miss. Hope you enjoy as we go along.
Okay, thank you.
Any more good news?
I have a mute back.
Yes, a good news. Was somebody speaking?
No, President.
Right, the good news is that we are up to 100 participants here tonight, so far online.
Participant online. Massa.
So it means we will be going over the 100 number,
Right. All
the
of
100 mark.
All of the participants need to join us on YouTube.
Kiwanis Club.
That's very,
Yeah.
very all right.
Another good news is that we are all here in this meeting alive and well and COVID free.
Very good news indeed. Very, very good news. One more call for good news. One more call, going once, going twice. Okay. God is good all the time, and all the time, God is good. All right, so we're gonna move over to bad news now. Do we have any bad news? All right, in following the news, unfortunately, over the weekend, within a 72-hour span, there were 25 murders in Jamaica, in our little island. So that is really, really, really sad. It means, therefore, that we are fighting a pandemic or two pandemics. We're fighting COVID and we're fighting that monster of crime. So that's very sad news.
True.
Okay. So we move on to birthdays and anniversaries. Is there anyone celebrating a birthday today or this week? No, nobody born this week in the month of.
Yesterday, my daughter celebrated her.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening again.
This is Director Jackie using my guest phone. My birthday will be next week, Wednesday, but I'm telling you in advance that all the present can be bought
and deliver to 12 Logan Street. Thank you.
Director Jackie.
Hello, good night. This is Director Juliet from First City. And if I'm permitted to say that my second princess celebrated her birthday yesterday.
Tell her happy belated birthday for us. Any more birthdays or anniversaries? Okay. All right. Fellow Kiwanians and guests, it is indeed a pleasure to have you visiting and sharing with us in this evening's activities. And so this concludes my section of the program. I will now hand over to President Kevin. Or should I hand over to Kiwanian Curlew, who will be doing the introduction of the guest speaker? Kiwanian Curlew?
No, actually, we're going to... Thank you very much, Mr. Carleen.
You're welcome, President.
All right, so we're going to take Kiwanis education at this time. The Kiwanis education. One moment, please. Right, we're going to take Kiwanis education at this time. So we're going to look at the history of Kiwanis because a very special birthday is coming up. Now, the organization originated in August 1914 in Detroit, Michigan, from a conversation between Allen S. Brown and Joseph Prance. Kiwanis, the state approved the application for Kiwanis to be a nonprofit on January 21st, 1915. Kiwanis became an international organization. Sorry, let me go back again. Kiwanis became international with the organization of the Kiwanis Club of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada in 1916. Kiwanis limited its membership to the United States and Canada until 1962, when worldwide expansion was approved. Since then, Kiwanis has spread to all inhabited continents on the globe. With that, I am going to play just a short video. I hope you're seeing my screen.
Not yet. Stop seeing it now.
And another. Look, a gaggle of them.
But what about her? Tell her she's not a kid. Or him. So how do we tell who is a kid? Height? Age, maybe. But some of us have to grow up faster than others. A kid. A kid. A kid wants to make the world better. And one day, he just might. Is a kid fearless? Vulnerable? Strong? Nervous? Yes. 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 Kiwanis is 600,000 kids at heart doing all the little and big things it takes to help children around the world. Because kids need Kiwanis. All of them.
All right, thank you guys very much for listening to that bit of Kiwanis education. At this time, I'm going to call on Kiwanian Ricardo, who will introduce our guest speaker for the evening.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everyone is hearing me.
I'm hearing you.
Yes, we're here.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we are.
Thank you. As I'm called upon today to introduce the guest speaker, it is indeed an honor. Dr. Terry Blaker is an internist and pulmonologist, having completed undergraduate studies and postgraduate studies in internal medicine at the University of the West Indies, Mona. She did her clinical fellowship in pulmonology at the University of Toronto, Canada. Dr. Baker is currently the Senior Medical Officer of the National Chest Hospital, Jamaica, and an associate lecturer in the Department of Medicine at the University of the West Indies. She's an examiner of undergraduate and postgraduate candidates in medicine at the UWI Mona. Dr. Baker works both in public health sector and in private practice as an internist and pulmonologist. She's a member of a number of professional bodies, including the Association of Consultant Physicians, Jamaica, the European Respiratory Society, and an affiliate member of the American College of Chest Physicians. Dr. Baker is a dynamic speaker, having presented both locally throughout Jamaica and overseas in the Caribbean and USA. She's actively involved in outreach and educational programs for varying groups of health professionals and the public with an interest in asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, tuberculosis, lung cancer, sleep medicine, and anti-smoking advocacy. My fellow Kiwanians, I ask that you unmute your microphones and give Dr. Terry Baker a Kiwani's welcome.
Thank you, Ricardo, and thank you all Kiwanians who are here and everybody who is online for attending. And let me particularly thank your president, Mr. Edwards, for inviting me to give a talk on a topic that is quite dear to me. I hope that we will all benefit from having this discussion, and that is what I'd like it to be. And even though the topic is sleep, I certainly hope that I won't put you to sleep before the end of the presentation. So thanks once again. I'm going to share my screen because it is a PowerPoint presentation. I hope everyone is able to see. So we are looking at healthy lifestyle, and one aspect of healthy lifestyle that is often neglected is that of sleep. And you will even hear people say, but sleep is not necessary. Sleep is a waste of time. So we're going to use the next few minutes to look at what sleep is and why sleep is important. So sleep is a state where we are less aware of environmental stimuli and what is taking place around us, right? Yes, sometimes you may awaken easily, or some people say that they hear everything that is going on while they're sleeping. The question therefore is, are they truly asleep? So we are less aware of what is going on, but sleep is by no means similar in condition or in meaning to being in a coma, or some persons say, but we're asleep all winter. That is hibernation. That is not similar. And definitely sleep is not death, right? Because we can be aroused easily from sleep. Well, usually easily, but of course, from a coma and from hibernation, and definitely not from death, are we easily aroused. Sleep is one of the conditions that is common to nearly every animal species. And it actually takes up 1/3, or it should take up 1/3 of our human life. So to sleep is not to waste time, because if so many persons and so many animals sleep, it must have some level of importance. So we talk about quality sleep, getting enough of it and at the right time, which is very important. And it is as essential to survival as is food and water. Sleep is important for brain functions, right? Because without sleep, you know that after time, you just can't focus. You can't form or maintain pathways in the brain that allow you to create memories. Sleep is also linked to the clearance of toxins from the brain and generally overall health. So how much sleep is important? And this is a vexing question. I had a gentleman who recently came to me and said to me, "Doc, I'm not getting 12 hours sleep." And it takes quite a while. And the question is, why do you think you need 12 hours sleep? And yet you have some persons who will say, I do quite fine on 2 hours of sleep per night. And I will have, I disagree with someone saying that they are fine. That such a person is sleep deprived. They actually have a sleep debt. Experts recommend at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep for most people. So this is not written in stone. It is a recommendation for most persons. Some persons, however, may need a little bit more or a little less than the 7 hours. Now, people who do not get on a regular basis sufficient sleep, who are clocking in less than 6 hours of sleep, they are at a higher risk of significant diseases, such as heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and from early death, underscoring that sleep is important. And when there is a lack of good sleep, restful sleep, it is also likely that that person will gain weight, have higher levels of stress hormone, and with that comes the attendant diseases that we spoke about above. So how much sleep is recommended? It's not a blanket statement that we all must get 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night, because we have all seen babies and children, and babies can sleep nearly half of the day. So the recommended duration of sleep varies depending on the person's age and also the level of activity. So here we have a chart from newborn to an older adult over 65 years, and at each stage, what is a recommended sleep as determined by national sleep agencies. And we can see that as we get older, the amount of sleep that we require does decrease. But nowhere on that chart do you see 2 hours or 4 hours. So the average recommended is in the darker shade of blue. But if you're having a little bit more or having a little bit less, that may be okay. But anything in excess, or as happens for many persons, below that lighter blue stage is not recommended because it's associated with significant health deficits. So how do we get good quality sleep, right? Because many of us, as we say, we drop asleep. And I'm here to say we shouldn't be dropping asleep, we should actually prepare for sleep. So it is recommended that we adopt a regular sleep schedule. Now, I know this may be easier said than done, but believe you me, a number of persons have been quite successful in doing it. So we say, try to prepare to go to bed, right? Roughly at the same time, so that you also wake up at the same time. And this is conditioning your body, right? So a habit is formed, and the more regular the schedule, it is easier for the body to fall into this rhythm. And you hear people say, listen, it's 11 o'clock and my body is used to going to bed from 9, because many of them have, in quotations, trained themselves to sleep, to go to sleep 9, 10, 11 o'clock, sleep the requisite number of hours and wake up at a certain time. Importantly, as well, is to shut off the light. And in brackets, I have here the blue light. In this era in which we live with laptops and phones and iPads, many times our bed is occupied with all of these instruments. We're either chatting on social media, we are playing games, we are doing work, and when we're ready, we just put down the phone or put down the laptop, put down the tablet and go to sleep. We don't shut them down, and there's this blue light that emits. And this blue light is actually disruptive for sleep. And your brain is still awake, processing all of what you would have just done. We recommend putting it down. Actually, do not taking it into the bed and avoiding it for at least an hour before you are ready to go to sleep. Exercise. Yes, exercise is important, but also what is important is the time that you exercise. So exercise can promote good sleep quality, but we certainly recommend exercising in the morning or in the early afternoon. But for those persons who have difficulty sleeping, to avoid exercising in the evening, because with exercise, you release a number of endorphins, adrenaline, and actually it may worsen insomnia in some persons. Avoid alcohol and caffeine late in the day because of the stimulatory effects that caffeine and alcohol can have. Some persons may have alcohol and actually fall asleep, but then they recognize that within the middle of the night or within the middle of the sleep period that they awaken and have difficulty going back. Avoid heavy meals too late at night. Avoid eating and going to lay down, and avoid these spicy and sugary foods, which can lead to indigestion and can significantly contribute to acid reflux and make sleep more difficult. Improving sleep, create a restful environment. So I will tell persons that I pay particular attention to my room. My room has certain colors or it does not have certain colors. I will tell persons when I'm going to sleep, there are certain colors I feel comfortable sleeping in, and there are other colors I do not feel comfortable sleeping in. For example, the color red. I find it difficult to have red in my bedroom because for me that is a stimulating color and not a color that is inviting rest and relaxation. So set the environment, set the stage, get ready for bed. Cool sheets, clean sheets. Many times if your bed is made up before you return from work, it makes for a more restful night. A tidy room, your room should be comfortable, not too cold, not too warm, dim lights. So you are setting the stage for sleep. And we say use the bedroom for sleep and other bedroom activities such as sex. Do not use the bedroom as a workstation. And especially during this time when many persons are working from home, there is the tendency to take the books, take the laptops and go into the bedroom. Separate the bedroom for sleep, for bedroom activities, other activities such as eating, such as working, such as having an engaging discussion, have it elsewhere. And naps may be beneficial, but not frequently and not long naps. About 20 to 30 minutes, and try to have them earlier in the day if someone feels that they need to have a nap. I mean, we live here in the Caribbean, and we all know about natural products. So we also say you can use a natural product. Don't have a heavy meal, don't drink coffee, don't have caffeinated drink, don't avoid the alcohol, avoid the fizzy drink, but you do have other drinks, other teas that can help you to relax. And some of these are listed here. The last one on the list is also CBD. I know CBD oil is a craze for so many things, but CBD oil does help some persons. And this is CBD with no THC or very little THC. Of course, CBD, as we know, but I will remind us, comes from ganja or marijuana plant. Not to say to go ahead and smoke it. We're talking about a CBD preparation devoid of the THC. Will certainly aid with sleep. Mint, orange peel tea, chamomile tea, lemongrass, all of these two will help the person to relax and may improve sleep. So rules of a healthy sleep, right? Avoid the alcohol and the tea, as we said. Cigarettes, avoid smoking. No alcohol close within 4 hours of anticipating going to sleep. Avoid heavy meals, particularly starchy, sugary and spicy foods. You don't want to be watching a horror movie. And I would tell my patients, don't even watch the news and say you are going to sleep. A member said, you know, one of the bad news that came out is 25 deaths on the weekend. So you are watching news and this is the last thing you hear before you are ready to retire. No, you want to give yourself an hour or two between watching television, watching news, and going to sleep. Leave the gadgets and avoid the exercise. What you do want to have is a nice, airy, clean room. Bed is prepared, easy reading material if you think you need to read, comfortable room, set a schedule, set a regimen, and meditation and prayer. I know many of us, and myself included, will see room for improvement in some of the areas I listed above. And many of us are actually sleep deprived. So what do I mean when I speak of sleep deprivation? As I said, sleep is necessary. Sleep is necessary for survival. It is not a waste of time. People who are sleep deprived or have a sleep debt, they are getting less sleep than they actually physiologically need to maintain health, or some are getting no sleep at all. And this we see in adults. Up to a third of adults are sleep deprived. Reason: long work hours, shift work, personal responsibilities. Some persons may be studying, increased use of the electronics, I can't overemphasize, have all contributed to chronically missed sleep. Every now and again, you may have a short bout of sleep deprivation, a day or two. This is usually not detrimental, and you'll hear people say, oh, I'm going to catch up on sleep. And that is a whole nother topic for discussion, because many persons believe you can't catch up. You may feel better if you sleep longer, but it's not that you're catching up with sleep, because some of the cellular damage that may have occurred, you cannot reverse with catching up. Younger children, because children are also sleep deprived, it delays growth of their brains and bodies. And this is an area I want to emphasize, because prior to COVID-19, when they had PEP, and before that you had GSAT, I am one of the physicians and also a parent that thought these exams were ridiculous. These exams were forcing kids to be up 11, 12 o'clock at night and getting back up by 5, 6 o'clock to do more work and get ready for school. And we have to look at how we are training our children and the cognitive fallout that may be occurring because we are forcing them to stay up, do work, and not get sufficient sleep. General symptoms of sleep deprivation is oftentimes related to the duration of the sleep deprivation. And you have different stages, but generally speaking, fatigue, sleepiness, lack of concentration, memory difficulties, brain fog, right? They just can't remember, they're just not performing optimally. Reduced coordination, which can lead to significant severe accidents. Mood changes, they actually eat, or sometimes they don't eat, and with this, the increased risk of diseases such as diabetes and heart disease. There may be microsleep. And persons can say whether or not they identify with this. Just for a few seconds, that person nods off. And just for those few seconds, they have little recollection of what took place. So they were there, quite awake, or starting to feel sleep, and then they just nod off for a few seconds and they shake themselves. And unfortunately, this can happen to persons who are operating machinery, who are driving. So sometimes it can be quite fatal, right? Hallucinations can occur, delusions, mania, depression, and suicidal thoughts. And for persons who are lovers of history and war crimes, we will remember that sleep deprivation was used as a measure of torture for prisoners of war, right? So it has been wrongfully employed, but in saying so, it is because they recognize the longer persons go without sleep, the greater the risk of both cognitive and psychological disturbances, and then the risk of disease. So these suicidal thoughts, depression, hallucinations, and delusions will occur when someone is at about 5 days, 7 days without sleep, or can occur, I should say. So looking at sleep deprivation, let us look at naps. Because when I was talking about the sleep hygiene, preparing for sleep, I mentioned naps, but I said short naps. Short naps earlier in the day and not too late, and no more than about 20 to 30 minutes. These power naps can actually provide an energy boost without ruining the nighttime drowsiness, right? So naps are not too many, maybe one, at most two for the day, before 2, 3 o'clock, just that somebody is re-energized to go ahead. And some countries, we know they have a siesta, right? Recognizing that this time of rest is important. I'm not saying that everybody needs a nap, but in some instances, it is quite helpful. So we looked at sleep deprivation, but you might hear people say, Larkson can't sleepy, every minute him drop asleep. So what about too much sleep? While sleep is essential for overall health, there is a thing as too much sleep. And this does not refer only to sleeping at night, but it is people who are forever in the bed, even if they're not sleeping. They always want to take a nap. They quickly drop asleep. They complain of always feeling tired, whether it is day or night. Such persons have low energy. They may have symptoms of anxiety and memory impairment, but interestingly, too much sleep may actually be pointing towards interrupted sleep and sleep disorders, as well as underlying health conditions. Interestingly, heart disease has been associated with persons who are excessively drowsy. And we too know that there are medications that sometimes persons can take, which may cause drowsiness. So too much sleep, whether it is due to an underlying sleep disorder, thyroid disease, medications, we do have a condition called hypersomnia of unknown cause, meaning this person is just so sleepy and we don't know why. And again, it is associated with different diseases. So balance is key. So if a person recognizes that they're not sleeping or they're excessively sleeping, they're starting to snore, many times it's a bed partner who complains, right? They're not functioning as they should. People wouldn't recognize the changes in mood. That person should get checked because they may jolly well have a sleep disorder. And when we talk about sleep disorders, the common ones that we see, obstructive sleep apnea, insomnia, which plagues about 10 to 30% of adults, and restless leg syndrome. Now, even though I say adults, we do know that children are too at risk of having the same or similar sleep disorders as adults will have. So we're going to look at those 3 common ones. The list of sleep disorders is quite numerous, but we're going to look at the 3 common ones. So obstructive sleep apnea, and this is a typical thing. The person thinks they're sleeping, they're fast asleep, usually snoring quite loudly, and their bed partner or the housemates are unable to sleep comfortably, either because the snore is so disruptive, or they will say that they're up watching the person because they realize that they're sleeping, snoring. Sometimes they look like they stop breathing, and the bed partner is sometimes nudging them, turn over, or nudging them to start to sleep again, to start to breathe again. So what happens in sleep apnea? When we are awake, there's an intrinsic tone that keeps our muscles firing. So it keeps the tone of our muscles in our arms, our legs, but it also keeps the tone in our airway open so that air freely flows. When a person goes to sleep, the muscles relax, and not just the arms and legs, but also the muscles within the airway. So these muscles that support the soft tissue in the airway, they temporarily relax and they become quite narrowed. So I don't know if you can see my pointer, but in the first picture here, you have an open airway and air can pass. In the second picture, it is narrowed, it is blocked. This one is blocked by the tongue having slipped back when the person is asleep. And because of this narrowed airway, the airflow is turbulent. And that is what we hear as the snore. So they tend to snore pretty loudly as the air is trying to go through this narrowed, blocked airway. At times, the breathing stops. Just for short periods of time, usually 10 seconds or less, but they can have many such periods within an hour. It is potentially serious. Not that they will stop breathing, but what happens is that the brain then detects, oh, but I'm not getting air, I'm not getting oxygen, you need to wake up. And such persons may sometimes wake up gasping, choking, or the brain just takes them into a lighter stage of sleep. And in doing so, they are not allowed to go into the deeper stage, because as they slip into the deeper stage, that is when the airflow becomes even more turbulent, less airflow to the brain, and the brain keeps them in the lighter stage. So when they wake up, they often feel as if they have not started to sleep. And this is a cycle that takes place throughout the night. And such persons, as I said, may have a loud snore, they are gasping for air, they often awake with a dry mouth because many of them mouth breathe. They have headaches, oftentimes morning headaches, and during the day they are just so tired, so drowsy that they will readily nod off. They nod off in meetings, they nod off while driving the car. You take them to the movies and they're dropping asleep. They often tend not to perform as well as they know they could or they should while at work or at school. And some of them can be quite irritable. They wake up often during the night to pass urine as well, and then they begin to wonder what is happening. Not everyone will have all of these symptoms, but oftentimes the snore, the drowsiness, the feeling as if they haven't started to sleep is what they complain of. And they know they aren't functioning at their full capacity. They have this brain fog, and therefore they are at increased risk of having accidents, whether they drive or not. But if they're operating machinery, if they're walking on the road, and in some countries, if we diagnose sleep apnea in, say, a bus driver or a truck driver, or definitely in a pilot, by law, we are required to report it. If left untreated, this cycle that the person is going through where the brain keeps waking them up, it does so by sending out all sorts of excitatory signals, which sends up the blood pressure, reduces the blood flow, right? And because of this, they are at an increased risk of high blood pressure, irregular heartbeats, heart attack, stroke, high blood pressure, as I said before, depression, headaches, and in children, attention deficit disorders. So while their concern is that I feel so tired, and yes, that is a legitimate concern, the medium to long-term complications of sleep apnea is stroke, diabetes, heart failure, which we know, particularly in our population, is a high cause of mortality or death. I say sleep apnea because I have focused on obstructive sleep apnea, as I mentioned, because this is the narrowing of the airway, but you actually do have other types of sleep apnea. But definitely obstructive sleep apnea, or OSA, is a more common one. So how do we treat it? We know that persons who are overweight are at an increased risk of having sleep apnea. We look at the neck circumference, we look at their abdominal, their waist measurements, because they would have more soft tissue deposits around the airway. When they go to sleep, it will compress it more. But this is not to say that it is only seen in persons who are overweight. We see it in persons who may have anatomically, right, disproportionate size, like between the base of the tongue and their airway. Last week I saw a gentleman who says, and he's quite slim, but every time he goes to sleep, if he's on his back, he says he can feel his tongue cutting off his breath. So the tongue slips back. And when I say slip back, it might just be a few millimeters, but it is sufficient in some persons because the base of their tongue is larger than the back of their throat, that it cuts off the passage. Persons who tend to have bad sinus issues or who may have had a fractured nose with now a deviated septum are also at risk. There's a family history in some persons who puts them at risk. So how do we treat it? The first thing we need to do is to diagnose it. And in diagnosing it, we do a sleep study. A sleep study can either be done with the person taking the equipment home and doing the sleep study, or using the more traditional sleep studies where they are actually in a sleep lab and we hook them up to all sorts of devices, have them sleep, and then we download the data, looking at the number of times that they actually sleep, reduce air, or for persons who are overweight, we say weight loss. We say do not sleep on your back, sleep on your sides or on your tummy. Quit smoking. Do not take large meals, alcohol, or any sedating agents within 4 hours of sleep. The hallmark is a CPAP device, and this is what this gentleman in the picture has, which is a mask either worn over the nose or over the nose and mouth that develops air under pressure, and it splits. It keeps the airway open. Oral appliances have also been used, and these are usually developed and fitted for the person by a dentist. It may pull the jaw forward a bit or pull the tongue forward a bit. And surgery. So we often ask an ENT surgeon to assess the person just to see if the blockage can be surgically corrected. Going on to our next sleep disorder, insomnia. That is awake. We used to say count sheep. We now know that that does not work. But people say, Doc, I'm in bed. I know when it is 2 o'clock. I know when it is 10 o'clock. I know when it is 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and daylight. And I feel as if I have not slept. Some of these persons would have actually slept, but a large percentage have been kept awake. It is seen in up to 30% of adults, and persons who have significant insomnia usually have some form of daytime impairment. They find that they need to go have a nap, or they feel so drowsy during the day, and that is their body telling them that they are sleep deprived, having not gotten enough sleep at night. It may be short term, and we see this in particularly persons who may work on shifts or have varying work schedules, or sometimes it can be chronic. 3 months. My patient today said he has not been sleeping for over 5 years. I've had patients who have not been sleeping for 10 years. And the longer it is oftentimes the more difficult it is to treat. We see it particularly in the older age group, and common causes. It may be related to medication. It may be due to another sleep disorder itself, poor sleeping habits. Anxiety and depression also plays a large role in some persons who do not sleep well at night. So if I have a patient who complains of insomnia, or if we know of someone who has insomnia, it takes quite a bit of speaking to that person to find out how long, what is happening, how long has this been going on, what medication have they been on, what is the sleep measure, what do their rooms look like. So you're really getting into their whole activity to find out why it is that they have a difficulty with going off to sleep or sometimes maintaining sleep. How do we treat? Well, the acute insomnia is often short-lived and is usually reactionary. So something has occurred. So usually when that is removed, then they will go back to a normal pattern of sleep. So you may have a student who is up studying, and then a day or two after they find difficulty sleeping. If that remains, I used to tell people, if you want to speak to me, call me at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I used to say, it was my years of studying, but it may be short-lived. For chronic insomnia, right? Oftentimes, if it is significant, we employ a psychologist to come on board, looking at behavioral therapy, plus or minus medication to help with sleep, realizing that many of these agents that we use for sleep may actually be habit forming. Restless leg syndrome. Many persons may not have heard this word, but it's actually quite common. And I'm certain as I explain it, you will realize that you may have heard of someone who has it or have it yourself. So this is an unpleasant or uncomfortable sensation in the leg with an irresistible urge to move them. So if you're the bed partner, you realize that this person keeps rubbing their legs together, turning around, and it is because they will say the legs hurting or the legs just feel heavy, or sometimes something moving up and down the legs. And if they remain stationary, it feels worse. Some of them even get up out of the bed and walk around, pace the floor a bit just to get this sensation out. It is actually a neurological condition, right? And it increases when, as I said, the person is stationary. So sometimes, yes, when they go to bed, but if they're on a long flight, it can also occur. It occurs in both men and women, although women are more likely to have it. And when you speak to them, sometimes it's difficult for them to define exactly what is going on. We usually see it in the middle-aged person, and it gets worse with age. Because of this restless legs, sometimes they don't sleep well. And because of that, they feel tired. You have the daytime sleepiness, right? And lack of sleep, irritability, mood swings. They can get depressed and loss of concentration. And it can affect personal relationships. They're irritable, they're miserable. You're in bed with the person and they can't keep still. They're moving their legs. And sometimes people just don't understand. What is the matter with you? So it can affect personal relationships. Generally, there's no cure. So it has been associated with some conditions such as iron deficiency. So if this is found out in such a person, you would give iron supplements. Other than that, avoiding stimulating substances. Some persons' symptoms are so mild, we recognize it for what it is and no treatment is necessary. So in coming to a close, I know this was an introduction, but I hope it did stimulate some thoughts. it did make us look at how we treat sleep and room for improvement if it is that we may be sleep deprived. So sleep is vital. It is often neglected. We often put it on the shelves because we just think we have so much more things to do and we're wasting time. But it enables the body to repair, renew, re-energize, and get going again. And if we lack sleep, if we are not sleeping, it is going to affect many vital functions, including development, particularly in children, energy, cognition, performance, and an increased risk of diseases and unstable psychological states. Sleep hygiene, that is the preparation for bed. A warm or cool bath, a warm drink, making sure the room is comfortable, lights are dimmed or completely off, no television in the bedroom. We don't recommend a television in the bedroom. Leave the devices out, comfortable clothing. Sleep hygiene is important. Don't drop asleep, prepare for sleep. Because sleep deprivation and sleep disorders are associated with significant diseases and may actually shorten our lives. It brings new meaning to the phrase dying to sleep. Thank you.
Fellow Kiwanians and guests, I am going to ask that we open our microphones and give Dr. Baker a rousing Kiwanis round of applause.
Thank you.
Excellent presentation. Very well. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'm going to ask that we use the raised hand feature. At this point in time, we're going to ask that we use the raise hand feature as we take a few questions. You will be acknowledged once your hand is raised, and your question will be, you'll be allowed to ask your question of Dr. Baker. Any questions? Are you guys hearing me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you, President. I have a question for Dr. Baker. Melatonin, is it something that deals with the sleep deprivation, and would you recommend it?
Thank you. That is an excellent question. Melatonin is actually naturally produced by our bodies and aids in sleep. And we have other hormones that are also very important with regards to regulation of sleep. But melatonin is one of, yes, the important hormones that is important in maintaining sleep rhythm or sleep pattern. So in someone who is having an acute issue and we need to get them, sleeping, melatonin can be used for short periods. It is sometimes used for persons who have gone transatlantic flights and they are now either jet lagged, and because of time differences, they are unable to sleep. So that is like using melatonin for a few days just to sort of reset that cycle. Or as I said, for short periods of time, we find that the efficacy wanes, especially in persons who may have chronic insomnia or chronic sleep disorders. So to answer your questions, yes, it is useful, but more so as a short-term agent rather than an agent to be used chronically.
And by short, what do you mean? 5 days? 7 days? Hello? Can you hear me?
We're hearing your prayers. Dr. Baker?
Are you hearing me?
I'm hearing you now.
Okay, so short, a week, days to 2 weeks, and then sometimes we break and re-explore, because what we're doing is that we're giving the melatonin, we're also trying to find out what is the underlying issue. You can use it repeatedly, but the efficacy, as I said, really wanes with continuous use.
Okay. Just another question, Doctor. You mentioned some of the herbs. I think you mentioned chamomile and basil and so on. Do you use vervain?
Vervain is one as well. So you have many herbs out there. I will tell you, was it last week before last, I had a tea. And afterwards, I'm like, why do I feel like this? So many of these teas won't necessarily, well, for some persons definitely will make them sleep, but some of them will just help the person to relax as you prepare for bed. So it's sort of, a heightened day, a long day. I know persons who sometimes use it for kids who may be a little agitated. So it helps to relax the person. And I was wondering, why am I feeling like this? And then I went and I researched the tea, and it is associated with relaxation and feelings of drowsiness. So there are a number of teas out there, including vervain. Another one that I also had heard of was the soursop leaf. I would say, just like any drug, please research the particular herb, because herbs too can have side effects.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor.
A question,
Right, Karen.
I can't get my hands up.
Go ahead, President Durbin. I didn't see your hand.
Oh yes. Doc.
Hello, yes.
If your CPAP machine works well at a particular time and then it stops working, can it be adjusted?
So it depends on what is going on with the machine. Many persons who have a CPAP machine, and from the distributor, the company that they purchased it from, they will give them an idea of the life of the machine. Some countries actually will change the machine anywhere from 2 years to say 5 years. So there's a lifespan to the machines. They are expensive. Some countries have better plans than others in terms of recognizing the importance of treating obstructive sleep apnea. Here in Jamaica, there's one person that I know of who they do distribute, they do sell machines, but he would be willing to sometimes have a look. I have 2 patients right now where I'm trying to, their machines basically have lived their life. So one is to look at how long has the person had the machine, and 2, if possible, to find out what is happening. Some persons get machines from overseas, second-hand machines, which having been used for 2-3 years will have a shortened lifespan. They are useful, but it's to recognize that they will have a short lifespan. Not many people out here actually work on CPAP machines, unfortunately.
Mine is only 2 years, and it worked very well in the initial stages, but then not so well these days.
If you should be able to contact if it is a reputable distributor, or you should be able to contact them and have them troubleshoot what is going on with the machine. 2 years is really a short period to have a CPAP machine not working.
All right, thank you very much, President Durbin. I see Karen. Go ahead, Karen.
Hello, good night, fellow Kiwanians. Hearing me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. All right, my concern with sleep is that, well, what is happening to me is that I dream, I feel like I'm dreaming too much. This is something that I'm trying to figure out for years now. But lately I realized that, or I was told that, my brain is not getting enough rest. So therefore, I am now experiencing like anxiety and depression. So from the doc, any advice as to, I don't know if I can dream less, or how do I my mind to keep me from stop dreaming that much.
So, Karen, I empathize, and I can hear it even in your voice, the difficulty. You do have persons who they tend to have very vivid dreams. For such a case, when we go through, what is your day like? What is your diet like? Are you on any particular medications? Do you exercise? What type of foods do you eat? And then we go through the whole sleep hygiene. So it's sort of difficult because different persons will have different reasons. And then the whole issue of the anxiety and the depression as well, when it comes on to insomnia, sometimes it is which one started first and is one now feeding the next. You know, so it's like a vicious cycle. We sometimes try to break that cycle using medication that will help you sleep while we try to address the underlying issue. The thing about it is to try to address it as early as possible, because it becomes increasingly difficult the longer it stays. I will also tell my patients who have chronic issues is that a sobering thought, and we're not necessarily expecting a turnaround, especially in persons who have chronic within the first day or two, because in persons who have had it for a very long time, sometimes their circadian rhythm has been reset, and so we need to try to readjust it. But I would, and for sleep medicine too, it is not just pulmonologists who do it, but you have the ENT doctors, we have neurologists on board, we have psychiatrists on board. So just to show that it is a multifactorial approach, we try to identify what is causing it and then which subspecialty should see the person. So it's sort of hard to answer here. I would say in the interim, to try to use one of the agents that will help you to get some sleep. You could try one of the teas, you could try some CBD oil, and which is not addictive as some of the sleeping tablets that we have, while going through the whole stepwise approach as to why it is you're probably having these dreams. Is there something that is triggering it? I have a gentleman who I've sent him to do a brain scan just to see if there's something going on in his brain that may be explaining. So in other words, I don't have a ready answer because there's no one size that fits all. You know, it is a stepwise approach while we use other things to assist in the sleep in the meantime. So I think that's where you are right now.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Baker, there is a question on YouTube. The question is, and this question is by President Janet, why do older people sleep less?
Part of it is the requirement. So if you look at the sleep chart that I had sent from newborns going up into the older adults, newborns, young kids, children are in an active stage of cell turnover, cell development. Their bodies require it as they develop as part of their renewal and growth, right? So they require longer hours of sleep to allow the systems to mature and to grow. They are also more active. Younger adults, teenagers are more active. Working adults are more active. By the time we get to older adults, many of them have started to slow down in terms of their activity. Many of them, well, they're certainly not requiring the rapidity in terms of development and cell growth as we see in kids and the young children and younger adults. And many of them are having sedentary lifestyle At home, they spend a lot of time, in quotation, resting in their chair, resting in the couch, speaking particularly persons who may be retired and at home. And some of them do have frequent naps. So when it is time for sleep, their body, one, doesn't require as much because the level of activities are less, the level of needing cell growth is less, but some of them too may have had naps during the day, which will contribute to shorter sleep hours at night. And not to ignore in our elderly population, things such as anxiety and depression. So it may be physiological, where they are just not requiring as much sleep because the demand is not there from their body, but we also have to look at making sure it is not a sleep disorder because of subtle anxiety, depression, medication sometimes that for more elderly folk may be on. Hope that helps in answering the question.
Thank you. All right, before we take Marlene Forrester, I'm going to ask that somebody moves a motion for a 15-minute extension of the meeting so that we can conclude.
I, P.E. Pauline, move the motion for an extension of our meeting for another 15 minutes.
Thank you very much, P.E. Pauline. Do I have a seconder?
I, Director Karen John. So move.
Thank you very much, Director Karen. All right, Marlene Forrester, go ahead.
Yes, good evening, fellow Kiwanians and guests. I was riveted to the information that was given by Doctor. Now, Doctor, I have been having a problem over the years. I recognize that you are a pulmonologist, plus you are a sleep expert. I recently did a sleep study, and honestly, I would like a second opinion. So if you are available, could you kindly leave your number with us and your place of location? Because I personally would like to have a discussion with you.
Certainly, I can put it in the chat, and also I will send it to, because I don't know how to send it to everyone here, but I will send it to President Edwards, and he can disseminate for persons, if you don't mind, President Edwards, for persons who leave it. But I can put it in the group chat.
Thank you very much.
Or on the chat, the Zoom chat, I should say, sorry.
Right, so you can post it on the Zoom chat. And I'm available to share it for those who need it. All right, thank you very much for that question. So we now take Lauren. I hope I pronounced that name correct.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Doctor.
Go ahead, Lauren.
Yes. Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me?
We're not hearing you. All right, so while Lauren is sorting out the technical issue, we're going to move on to Kiwani and Raul. Lauren, are you back? All right, Kiwani and Raul, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Good evening, fellow Kiwanians and guests. Dr. Baker. I had my OSAS diagnosis back in 2013, and I persisted with the CPAP machine for 3 years to no avail. What I'd find is that I would fall asleep with the mask on, and at some point during the night, I would subconsciously remove it. What I would like to know is, do you know any reputable specialists that I could speak to with regards to oral devices such as mandibular splinting?
Okay, sorry about your experience with the CPAP. I will say that when we do start with the CPAP machine, we tell persons, because this is like a jet of air under pressure, you know, being forced at you to keep the airway open. For many persons, it does take a little while getting used to sleeping with it. So it may be sleeping with it for short periods as you gradually get used to it, and then you can use it for longer periods each night. But persons who do get used to it, and we say give yourself anywhere from about 6 to 10 weeks, then they think is the next best thing to see sliced bread. The snoring is reduced or completely resolved. The quality of sleep is better, and many persons should feel much better. There are some persons who, despite trying to use the sleep machine, still have difficulty. We go back, we look at the type of mask that they have, because you have so many types of masks and different sizes of masks, as well as we may have to ensure that they have the right size, and just work with the persons. In terms of oral, so CPAP is basically the standard. For some persons, yes, the oral device can be used. I am not clear as to exactly who here in Jamaica does oral devices. I have 2 patients who have, and I can leave my contact as well and try to figure out. I know one person got theirs from overseas. Try to find out which dentists here might actually make oral devices for patients.
Okay, thank you. I'd appreciate that.
Will do.
All right, thank you very much. Laurent, are you still here?
Yes, I'm still here. Are you hearing me now?
Perfect.
Are you hearing me?
Perfect.
Okay, great. So good evening, everybody. Doc, the question I need to ask is the CBD oil. I have been on Alfraz for a couple months now. I am down to my last 2 tablets. It finishes in another 2 days, and I wish, well, hopefully I was thinking that I would not go back to refill the prescription. I did purchase the CBD oil from one of the outlets, but I have not taken it. I would have purchased it over the last 2 weeks, but I have not taken it. A little tentative because I wasn't certain if there would be a reaction, as I would have had several unpleasant reactions with some of the stuff that I have tried. So the question for me is the CBD oil, in terms of side effects, is it much safer than, say, some of even the Alfraz that I would have been using? Can it be taken with the Alfraz just in case I have to go back to the Alfraz to help me get some sleep? That's pretty much the question.
So the CBD oil, one you have we're not advocating CBD with the THC. It is a THC component of it that oftentimes will cause the significant side effects such as hallucinations, actually some mania, psychosis, may cause excessive drowsiness as well. That is not to say that CBD oil, and I say, I don't know what substance has absolutely no side effects, but for the CBD oil, one person can take 1 drop, 2 drops, 3 drops, and another person might end up needing 5, 6, 7 drops. So you start slow and see how it feels for you. So just like it may be 3 drops, 4 drops, and then you determine how do you feel. For some persons, they might have a dry mouth, nausea, right? If it is too much, they might find that the drowsiness tends to be a little rapid in its onset, but that oftentimes too can happen if it has the THC in it. It's usually a gradual relaxation and going off to sleep. In terms of taking it with the alprazolam, we really don't recommend mixing agents, sedating agents. Some persons who use the CBD oil will say, oh, but it is a natural substance, but I would not recommend mixing the CBD oil with the alprazolam or any other sleep agent. For additive effects, we say, well, try one of the other teas. Somebody mentioned the vervine tea, the chamomile with orange peel tea, lavender tea, just to see if that would help with the relaxation, and then either help with the tea and the CBD or the tea and the alprazolam. But I would mix alprazolam with CBD.
What I was actually thinking, Doc, is to take the CBD oil earlier. Say if I was to take it at 9, and in the events, as is happening now, you know, I would be up until morning. If I take it at 9, for example, and say at 1, I'm still not sleeping, could I then take the alphas, which, you know, somewhat seem to help me sleep, which would have been about 3 or 4 hours interval?
3 or 4 hours. That is sufficient time interval between the two. You could try.
Okay.
I would, in that instance, to maybe try it with a lower dose of the alpraz. The alpraz usually is 0.25 or 0.5. Some people take the 0.25 and it does absolutely nothing for them. So I would, however, start with a lower dose and see. And then for another night, you can increase the amount of the CBD oil that you take and see if it would help.
Okay, thanks much, Doc.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. So we're going to take our final question, and this is from Warren McDonald. Go ahead, Warren.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. Through you, President, to Doctor. My question is a simple one. You know, the concern I have is about the habit forming of these relaxants. A whole list was given there, and even prescribed. I mean, doctors prescribe certain relaxants. But my concern is how habit forming are these? I mean, if once you start taking these, you know, these, I don't want to call them drugs, but these aids, you know, can you eventually wean yourself and come off of them, you know?
So thank you for the question, Mr. McDonald. That's an excellent question. So when we talk about a dependence, we have different types of dependence. You're talking about a dependence from a neurological level where there's now a brain dependence to get to sleep, depending on the agent, or is it more of a habit? If it's a habit, it is, most of them are easily, it's not that it is a true addiction or a true dependence. So the teas, that was a list of teas that I would have given. Those tend not to be addictive, not to be forming a dependence on them to get to sleep. They just help to relax you. It's not that, oh, you're going to need it to go to sleep. Unlike many of the other sleep agents that we have, which fall into a class of drugs that we call the benzodiazepines, which if used over a prolonged period. So you have the alprazolam, you have another common one that is sometimes used is Valium, Dormicum or midazolam is another one. These are actually pharmaceutical agents. And you have a higher risk of developing an addiction or dependence on them to go to sleep. So for the natural agents, not so much, but for the pharmaceutical agents, many, not all, many of them can be habit forming. Having said so, I did mention as that we use it, oftentimes we try to use it more as a short-term measure to try to help someone. These are the pharmaceutical agents, while exploring the option of psychoanalysis or cognitive behavior therapy, which are different exercises a psychologist may go through in trying to break this whole cycle of insomnia or the particular sleep disorder. So just to reiterate, the natural substances such as the various teas tend not to be addictive or habit forming. The pharmaceutical or the drugs, yes, many of them, not all, but many of them, if used for a prolonged period, run the risk of becoming habit forming, but they should actually be used in association, particularly in the person who has a chronic disorder with some amount of psychoanalysis or cognitive behavior therapy. If it is an acute issue, usually not too worried, because usually within a week, the 2 to 3 weeks, and then the person may not require it anymore. But that is not the case for the chronic. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Baker. But to do the official thank you, I'm going to ask, is VP Annette on? All right, not. DP June, are you hearing me?
Hello?
Are you guys able to hear me? I'm not sure.
Yes, President Kevin, I'm hearing you.
All right, I'm still not hearing DP June, so I'm wondering if she's on. All right, Dr. Baker, I want to take this.
Oh,
Go ahead.
okay. Good evening, fellow Kiwanians and guests.
Good evening.
It is indeed an honor and a privilege for me to extend thanks to all the persons who have come out tonight to share in this informative presentation on the importance of sleep. That's how I'm going to put it. Sleep, because sleep, I realize now sleep comes in all different forms and colors, and even have sleep hygiene. And I want to thank the over 20 clubs that have participated tonight. And it is even more a great privilege of me to thank Dr. Terry Baker, who has taken time out of her busy schedule to inform and to educate us. And I think I can speak for everybody. We're certainly educated tonight, and we will have to look into our pattern of sleep and how we treat ourselves before we go to sleep. I know she was speaking about me, but anyway, I'll take the warning. So thanks very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Baker, and all the persons, Kiwanian families and guests who are here. And I hope that we will use this useful information to enhance our life in going forward. Dr. Baker, we, the diplomats of the Kiwanis Club of Linseed, is presenting a certificate of appreciation to you. And we hope that you will have this hung in your office, as some of us will also be paying you a visit. So may you continue to contribute richly to the health of the people of Jamaica as we seek to better the way that we sleep and take care of ourselves. Once again, thank you very much.
Thank you. It was certainly a pleasure being with you this evening, and thank you for such warm wishes. And I would like to thank everyone for, well, hopefully being awake, not sleeping now, and participating. Thank you. Thank you, President Evans.
All right, thank you very much. At this time, I'm going to ask quickly. I noticed that no announcements were being placed in the chat. Am I to take it that there are no announcements?
One announcement, sir, from Division 23 West SLP and Kiwanis Club Friends Across Border and the Kiwanis Club of JTS, with the observance of World Read Aloud Day on February 3rd. I am impressing on all Kiwanians to actively participate in reading aloud across Jamaica to children in different schools. And I'm requesting that those who are in Division 23 West, please let me know if you will be an active participant on February 3rd, and the school to which you will read to the children. It can be face-to-face or virtual. Thank you very much.
Thank you, DP June. Also, the Kiwanis Club of Diverse Professionals, Portmore Pines, has its cake sale on January 29. They'll be having banana bread, carrot cake, bread pudding, and potato pudding. Prices range from $500 to $900.
Sugar-free cake, please.
I'm sure they'll probably have that specially made for you, DP June. The misconception of love, it will be on the 26th. And President P.E. Amelia has put his number in the chat. All right, any other announcements? All right, there be none, fellow Kiwanians and guests. It has been a wonderful meeting. Thank you guys so much for being here and participating. I thank you for the pleasure of your time. At this time, I'm going to ask that we raise our imaginary glasses, or if we're at home and have glasses, that we raise them as we propose a toast to Kiwanis International, Friends of Jamaica, and we say safe journey from your living room, from the kitchen to your bed. And remember, prepare for your sleep. This meeting is early.
Fellowship time now, fellowship.
I thought it was early bed tonight, June. I love keep late night.
Hello, LG Christine.
Yes, Chris.
You know that after every meeting, we have a next meeting for the Kiwanis Club of 23
I know, but after the wonderful presentation tonight, I think you know it's going to be repentant. I'm going to
prepare for sleep, right? I want to also thank all the members who are on Zoom, on YouTube. We had quite a bit of persons on YouTube tonight. President Janet and her team were over on YouTube. Welcome and thank you for joining us.
Hey, mercy.
Thank you, President Kevin.
Yes.
Although I thought you were going to have announcements via voice, our treasurer had to opt out for me to jump in for you to do the announcement. But DP June, most definitely you can get your sugar-free cakes. Right, so you can contact me, DP Josephine, if you're here.
Thank you very much.
I'm hearing you.
Is that
DP Josephine? Don't worry about it. You know, we have Knoxford can deliver the cakes to you.
Wonderful. But hold on, you know, say how me for full. I'm so for full. Fellow Kiwanians who are still on the platform, guess what? I am, because I have obstructive sleep apnea. A business was born from this. My business was born from this. It is called Sleep Tight Jamaica Limited, and we distribute CPAP machines. So please feel free to speak to me about your machine.
So all who have sleeping issues can visit President Kevin to get a good sleep tonight.
No, not tonight. I don't think it's tonight.
Or more.
Good night, everyone. Very good meeting, President Kevin.
Thank you very much for coming.
Very interesting and needed meeting.
Indeed, DLG.
Can you repeat that, DLG?
Yes. I'm sorry, I don't have sleep. I don't have a problem sleeping. But
When you want to sleep, you close the eye, DLG.
And just go to sleep.
Exactly.
I don't have a problem.
That is so wonderful, DLG.
Yes, it is. When you get to my age, you have to try and sleep.
DP June. Are you hearing me, DP June?
Yes, I am.
President Steve here, Longville Park.
Yes, President Steve.
I'm going to prepare to sleep now, so good night here.
All right, darling. Sweet dreams. Sweet dreams.
I don't want to dream tonight.
No.
Okay. What President Kevon saying?
I just posted Dr. Baker's number in the chat.
Okay, certainly. Oh, thanks.
All right, my darling President Steve.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Hi, President Lydio.
DP June.
Yes.
So for all the members that are having issues sleeping, right? They can come to our meeting. If that sleeping issue is because of love, they can come to our meeting next week, Tuesday, to listen on the misconception of love.
Okay, honey.
Sleep disorder as a result of love.
Yeah.
Certainly.
I just want to share something with you about sleep disorder, though. Well, snoring rather. Well, that is a disorder, but snoring. I was overweight, and I put myself on a rigid diet with a lot of exercise, and I lost anywhere between 30 and 35 pounds. And I no longer snore. I used to shake my feet when I'm on my back. I don't do that anymore. So